All right, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How are you doing? I see we got somebody live here. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Gavin Reshaw Presents G Boot 2786. Welcome to my channel. Hope all is well. Hope you guys are doing okay. I'm just recovering myself. I've been sick over the past day or so, so I didn't get a chance to do this interview like I want. Excuse me. I didn't get a chance to do this much sooner than I wanted to. There were some other topics I wanted to talk about. I'll probably be doing those a little bit later on, perhaps tomorrow. I do want to get into what happened with the Oscars and Jada Pinkett Smith's comments and Billy Porter's dress. It wasn't a tuxedo. It was a full-on fucking dress. I'll get to that a little bit later on another day. That's something different. But I did want to talk about something I saw today. Back in January, I did a video on Michael Jackson and how they're revamping all of these old allegations against Michael for child molestation, and they're airing a documentary on HBO that was played at the Sundance Film Festival earlier this year. Sundance Film Festival is one of the big independent film festivals and activities that was co-founded by Robert Redford. And basically, the documentary was called Leaving Neverland. It's directed by a gentleman by the name of Dan Reed, and it interviews, the interviewees are James Safechuck and Wade Robinson, two kids who knew Michael Jackson from back in the late 80s, early 90s. And they're doing this documentary now, claiming that Michael molested them on multiple occasions. And in fact, they did interviews with Gayle King, and they're planning to do an interview right after the documentary airs that second night on live with Oprah Winfrey. Pun intended, Oprah Winfrey. So, what I wanted to talk about, though, in the topic, from what you saw, I called it Lynching Redux 2.0. Michael has been dead now for approximately 10 years in June. June 25th will mark the 10-year anniversary of Michael Jackson's untimely death. And apparently, things that Michael was acquitted on, things that had already been tried, things that these two gentlemen testified to in open court under oath in his defense. Is Michael. Dave is Michael. He is still alive, man. Please. Give me a break. Anyway, sorry, I'm looking at this. Michael's been dead for 10 years now, and they're testifying. Dave gave testimony, as I was stating, in his defense that he never touched them, he never acted inappropriately. Their parents even testified for him, Wade Robinson's parents. Now, something I didn't know, shout out to Ism Radio. Yeah, look, man, I've seen that shit. Get off the chat room with that. Michael is still alive. At any rate, getting distracted. These gentlemen testified, their parents testified and said they never witnessed anything of that nature. Michael's attorney, who I've spoken with, Tom Mesereau at that time, he stated in radio interviews that Wade Robinson was one of the strongest witnesses for the defense that he had. He testified about the times he spent with Michael, how generous he was to he and his family. Don't you notice with all of these kids, they always talk about consistently how generous they were, how they stayed with him, how the parents stayed with him, and then on top of that, they never mentioned anything inappropriate. And now that Michael is dead 10 years later, when Wade Robinson didn't get to be the choreographer for Circus de Olays Michael Jackson tribute. You remember that's something big that they do in Las Vegas, the Michael Jackson show. He came up with these accusations, and I can verify that because Wade Robinson's uh, ex-girlfriend was none other than Brandy Jackson. If you watched Ism Radio, uh, shout out to Tariq Nasheed and his lovely co-host. Brandy Jackson was the guest on that show, and she talked about how she and Wade actually dated for 9 years, even as young children. Wade and Brandy is the daughter of Jackie Jackson. Jackie Jackson, as you know, is Michael Jackson's older brother, the oldest of the Jackson Five. So they know this man personally. And apparently, Brandy and Wade, they had broken up. Uh, she talked, and even despite breaking up, she talked about how, and Taj Jackson, her cousin, who was Tito's Jackson's son, he had even stated that and had receipts of Wade Robinson asking to come to Michael's funeral. Being in touch with the family, going to their memorial service for Michael, multiple things that he did. So now they have this documentary that HBO is going to air, which the estate, rightfully so, is suing HBO over because there was a contract from the 1990s that Michael had when he was on the Dangerous tour. And I remember when HBO actually aired that tour. I remember as a kid watching that. They had a contract back then where HBO, in its clause, they could not say anything or do anything slanderous against Michael. So if it is, then it can be legal trouble for HBO. Yet HBO still contends with airing this documentary. What this shows to me, brothers and sisters, is that no matter how much money you have, no matter what you do in your life, how much you've affected change in being a humanitarian and changing pop culture, you are still a nigger in the eyes of white supremacists. Michael Jackson changed the way music videos were done and being made at the time in the early 1980s and 70s when they would just show an entertainer just lip syncing in front of a microphone and they'd have fog behind them. Michael Jackson didn't do that. Michael Jackson actually put a movie up. And they call them short films, which is what they were if you looked at all of them. Taking into consideration the fact that MTV was a fledgling network and did not even have blacks playing during that time on their show, on their network. He did all of that. He made big ratings for HBO. So the way that the estate and family is doing it, and the estate and family are two different things. They are obviously pissed because something like this would affect their money because the estate, of Michael Jackson, they license his image, his appearance, his music now for different projects. This could have an effect on it. And the family, they have no control over the estate. This has an effect on them also because this is their loved one that, has passed on. So a lot has been going on lately with this video, and I think that it's a grave injustice to shame the deceased. Oh, excuse me, guys. You need something? Sorry, guys. Excuse me. So I just saw today too that the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Shout out to Nicole from Nicole's View. She posted this up here on her Facebook page that HBO actually, let's see, yeah, it's on Nicole's Facebook page. I'm looking at it right now. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference actually sent a letter to HBO uh, this morning contending that they were opposed to the documentary that is airing on HBO. They sternly, as supporters of Michael Jackson, they defended him. They thought it was unfair that Michael was being railroaded the way that he did, especially since he's deceased. And that is another thing, that he is not in a position to defend himself. Now, keep in mind when Safe Chuck and Robinson gave testimony to Michael Jackson in this favor, it's, excuse me, sorry. Uh, yeah, keep in mind, Robinson and Safe Chuck testified on Michael Jackson's behalf. They gave testimony under oath. So, by giving that testimony under oath in his defense, they basically, and under oath, they gave what's called defense evidence. And now that they are stating, well, it didn't happen, they are basically admitting to everyone that they're liars. So, how could anyone now take them seriously? Well, unfortunately, in the world that we live in now, when someone makes an accusation, it's no longer accusation and then evidence proving the accusation is true. It's now accusation and accusation alone. We don't need evidence. Believe women, believe victims. And sadly, that is the world that we are today. And it makes the job of defense attorneys much more harder because when the public looks at these, when they have when you have access to a Twitter account or Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, and someone states puts up the new hashtag, everyone is going to believe it. Uh, what's more disheartening about this thing with Michael Jackson is that Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King basically were co-signing these accusers. Uh, and I've never really been a big Oprah Winfrey fan. I didn't like the fact from the beginning, Oprah Winfrey, when she had her television show, other than Kanye West and Common, she never invited any rap artist to be on her show. I've heard things about Oprah from people that have, met her. Um, well, from one person who's no longer here, he didn't have too much positive to say about her. I look at the fact that she has that network. Remember, Oprah Winfrey's own television network was about to shut down because these white folks weren't supporting her. But what's happened recently? She got Tyler Perry to put all of his TV shows on her show. When Tyler Perry left TBS after that Boondocks episode about Ma Dukes, and he went over to OWN, and basically, honestly, it's terrible. I can't, I can't lie about that. I don't think Tyler Perry's shows are well written to begin with, or the acting is not even that great either. But Oprah, I was never really a fan. I wasn't even a fan of Gayle King. I didn't know who she was until I saw episodes with her on Oprah Winfrey, and you know Oprah never really impressed me like talking about it. She makes her money because white folks gave her money. Uh, her manager or co-producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show was a gentleman. I have his name right here. Hold on a second. Let me see. Jeffrey King, I believe. Let me see. think that's him. You know, it's with Oprah too. She always tried to outdo her opponents. Not her opponents, excuse me, outdo her guests. Like anytime she was, you had a guest that would talk about them being raped as a child, and Oprah would come up with, "Oh, I was raped, as a child like this too." She would always, you couldn't outbeat her. Even Paul Mooney made a joke about it. Like she always had to outdo you for something. Uh, let's see. And remember, I'm looking at this too. I think his name is Jeffrey King. I could be wrong. I'm trying to find it, guys. But she actually had Michael Jackson on in her show. I remember this too. In 1993, she sat down exclusive for an exclusive interview uh, right after he had performed at the Super Bowl halftime show for Super Bowl 27 at Neverland Ranch. And it was watched. I'm looking at this. The event was broadcast live and was watched by 90 million people worldwide, which will result his recently I'm just reading this as and was watched by 90 million people worldwide, resulted in his recently studio album Dangerous on the top 10 charts. This is how they wrote it. Basically, what they're saying is that this resulted in Dangerous going up to the top 10 charts. I don't believe that, but I think that his talent was enough that Dangerous reached the top 10 chart albums. It's Michael Jackson, so his stuff was always going to chart. You know, I remember when she had Dr. Oz. Keep in mind, Oprah Winfrey's had all of these people from Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil. She had Alana Van Zant on there as well, and basically made their careers. Phil McGraw and Dr. Phil is not even a real doctor, from what I understand. There's been controversies about him, but no, I've never really been into Oprah, like talking about it. And I think that it's it's not surprising that she's involved with this hit piece on Michael. You know, she's trying to make money, and Michael Jackson is all about making money. Um, his own family said that after he died, he was worth more dead than alive, according to Joe Jackson. I'll never forget that. And a lot of people still think Mike was taken out. I did see taken out for his music catalog, owning half of Sony. If you listen to the Breakfast Club's interview this past week, well, actually today, Taj and Marlon Jackson sat down with the Breakfast Club and they talked about it. And they said the songs that Michael owned, including the James Bond theme song, owning Osiris and Babyface, uh, song, any songwriter that came out of the Sony ATV uh, company, Michael owned a part of that. You think about it, Beyonce, Jay Z, Little Richard. These are just a few of the artists. Boys to Men. There's also Babyface. There was also Bruce Springsteen, Dolly Parton. I'm looking at it. Matter of fact, is Wikipedia. This is a Sony ATV catalog right here. Sony ATV Music Publishing. And here are the notable artists. Let's see. This is a list: 50 Cent, Seven Aurelius, 40 Below Summer, Alice, Cindy Lauper. These are just a few of them, guys. Cher, Celine Dion. Dion? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Celine Dion is on here. Cardi B. Of course, this is after Michael died. Elvis Presley, Michael's father in law at one point. Faith Hill, Flow Rider, Fetty Wap. That's the link to the that's the link, guys, if you want to find it. It says his Michael Jackson and his estate after June 25th, 2009, owned half of Sony ATV Music Publishing between 1995 and 2016. So that's 21 years. Michael died in 2009. So for 14 years, he owned half of Sony and didn't even have to put, according to his son Taj, all the money for the other songs and artists that Sony would acquire. So Michael was getting paid double. Snoop Dogg, Sade, Santana. You know what? I think that this is a lynching of black men that we're seeing. He is he's dead. Michael is dead, and they're still talking about this. I think it's a shame. So it's definitely a there definitely is a conspiracy. Uh, you know, the just this year, we've already had four prominent black men that we've talked about, from R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby, uh, Chris Brown. All of these men are accused in some way of sexual assault or misconduct with no evidence. Maybe with R. Kelly, well, I stand corrected. Maybe R. Kelly, but again, I think even with that, that goes too far, because some of the stories I'm hearing, one lady, they kept his semen for 10, 12 years on his clothes. After this assault happened, they didn't go to the police immediately. I don't know what to make of that. It's a trip. But anyway, guys, I'm going to end the stream. But I wanted to just talk about that for a minute. I do think that there's definitely it's a lynching redux to redo 2.0 on Michael Jackson. I think in black men in general, they're coming for you, and it's sad to say, but a lot of sisters are. I'm not going to say all black women, of course not, but there are a lot of sisters I'm seeing that are co-signing a lot of the stuff that's going on. When you see this, uh, when you see this stuff, and with the man in the dress, and I want to get to that in another video. I'm going to do a whole separate video over that. But the fact that you see stuff like that, you see them co-signing it again and again and again, they support that. Then they're supporting, R. Kelly. At one point, they were R. Kelly's biggest supporters, but now when white daddy says we're gonna go after R. Kelly next, now we're seeing all of the tide turning. They're flipping on him. This is a dangerous time to be a heterosexual man, let alone a heterosexual black man. It's dangerous. I think that men are gonna have to start protecting themselves. I was shocked to find, really not shocked or surprised, but since we're talking about music and R. Kelly and Michael Jackson, R. Kelly wrote, of course, "You Are Not Alone" for Michael Jackson, and I'm finding out through his attorneys, R. Kelly didn't even own the rights to "I Believe I Can Fly." Probably doesn't even own the rights to "You Are Not Alone." It might have been something Michael's publishing company owned, under his contract. But that's the stuff that a lot of black artists go through in this country, where they don't control their rights. Michael was one of those brothers that was smart enough, because he knew the business, being around James Brown. And even at Motown Records, he saw how, I'm sure, a lot of those artists were being treated, and said, "This ain't going to be me." In fact, when Berry Gordy sold Motown Records, I read that he wanted to sell Michael Jackson, the Beatles ATV catalog. I'm sorry, the Motown publishing catalog, which would have been a great idea, to keep it in family hands, keep it in black hands. But yeah, guys, I'm sorry if I'm rambling a little bit. Not This isn't one of my best videos. I'll admit that. But thank you to all the guests that are in the chat room. We're gonna talk more about it. I do not plan to watch the docu series Finding Neverland. I would hope you don't watch it, and I hope HBO basically loses a lot of money from broadcasting it. That no one will watch it because I think it's a shame. It's unfortunate that you would take advantage of the dead to make money off of it. You know, but anyway, guys, that's it for me, and that's all I got to say. Peace and blessings. I'll try and be back with you sometime next, uh, over the weekend. I think I'll do another video. Be safe, guys. Peace.